I walked through my front door at 2:30 p.m., 3 hours earlier than usual, carrying the signed paperwork for my $2.8 million retirement package from Coastal Tech Industries. 26 years of 14-hour days, missed birthdays, and weekend projects had finally paid off. My boss had shaken my hand that morning with tears in his eyes, and he said to me, "Desmond Quinn, you've earned every single penny." I couldn't wait to tell my wife Claire, my partner of 26 years. I imagined her face lighting up, imagined us finally taking that trip to Ireland she'd always wanted. Instead, I found a manila folder sitting on my home office desk. It was stamped in red ink. HR confidential, do not distribute. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside were detailed breakdowns of my retirement package, my pension calculations, my stock options, everything. Documents that should have been locked in Coastal Tech's HR vault. Then I heard Claire's voice from upstairs. She was on a video call, and her words made my blood run cold. "The 2.8 is confirmed, baby. Once we file, I'll get half at minimum, probably more with a good lawyer. Then you and I can finally be together like we planned." I stood frozen in my office, the folder still in my hands, listening to my wife of 26 years plan my financial destruction with someone she called baby. I didn't move for a full minute. My brain struggled to process what I'd just heard. Claire was having an affair. That much was obvious. But the folder, the leaked documents, the specific mention of my retirement amount, it all pointed to something worse. Whoever she was talking to had access to my confidential HR files. I looked at the folder again. In the bottom right corner was a small stamp, processed by Brian Foster, Senior HR Manager. Brian Foster. I knew Brian. We'd worked in the same building for 15 years. He was 43, divorced, always friendly in the hallways. We'd eaten lunch together a dozen times in the cafeteria. He'd congratulated me on my retirement just last week. And now he was apparently sleeping with my wife and leaking my private information to help her rob me. I heard Claire's footsteps moving across the bedroom above me. I had maybe 30 seconds before she came downstairs. My instinct was to charge up there, to confront her, to demand answers. But something stopped me. A cold, clear thought cut through my anger. If I confronted her now, she'd know that I knew. She'd prepare. She'd hide evidence. I'd lose any advantage I had. I pulled out my phone and quickly photographed every page in the folder. My hands were steadier than I expected. 26 years of engineering work had taught me to stay calm under pressure, to solve problems methodically. This was just another problem. A devastating, heartbreaking problem, but still a problem that could be solved. I put the folder back exactly where I'd found it, making sure it was positioned at the same angle. Then I walked quietly to the kitchen and started making coffee, like I'd just arrived home. Claire came downstairs 2 minutes later. She was wearing the new workout clothes she'd bought last month, her hair freshly styled. She smiled at me, that same smile I'd loved for 26 years. "You're home early," she said, kissing my cheek. Her lips felt like ice. "Yeah, just finished up some final paperwork," I said, keeping my voice normal. "Thought I'd surprise you." "That's sweet," she said. "How was your day?" I looked at her, really looked at her. This woman I'd built my entire adult life around. The mother of my daughter. My partner through good times and bad. "It was fine," I said. "Just another day." She poured herself coffee and started talking about her yoga class. I nodded and smiled and pretended everything was normal. And the entire time, my mind was racing. That night, after Claire fell asleep, I went downstairs to my office. We'd always shared our laptop password. It was Coastal 2024 because we'd bought the laptop 2 years ago. I'd never had a reason to check her computer before. I trusted her completely. That trust now felt like the stupidest thing I'd ever done. I opened her laptop and went straight to her email. The inbox was clean, nothing suspicious. But I knew people who were cheating didn't leave evidence in obvious places. I checked her trash folder. It was empty. Too empty. She'd permanently deleted everything. But I've been working in tech for 26 years. I knew that deleted didn't always mean gone. I downloaded a recovery program I'd used for work projects and ran it on her email files. 30 minutes later, I was staring at 4 months of recovered emails between Claire and Brian Foster. The earliest one was dated 8 months ago. "Can't stop thinking about yesterday," it read. "When can I see you again? I felt sick. I kept reading. The emails got more detailed, more intimate, more calculated. Then, 3 months ago, the tone changed. Brian wrote, "I accessed his file today. The retirement package is bigger than we thought. $2.8 million total. If we time this right, you could walk away with over half." I printed everything. Every single email, every text message backup I could find, every photo. The printer hummed quietly in the darkness while I read through months of betrayal. Claire had responded to Brian's message about my retirement with enthusiasm. "That changes everything," she'd written. "We need to be smart about this. What's the best timing?" Brian had replied with a detailed plan. They would wait until after my retirement package was officially processed. Then Claire would file for divorce, claiming I'd been financially controlling throughout our marriage. Brian would provide expert testimony about how retirement packages should be divided. He'd even found a divorce lawyer for her, someone he'd worked with before. The phrase "worked with before" stuck in my mind. Had Brian done this to other employees? How many confidential files had he accessed? How many marriages had he helped destroy? I found photos too. Claire and Brian at restaurants I didn't recognize. Claire and Brian at some cabin, sitting on a porch, holding hands. The photos were time-stamped. Some were taken on days when Claire had told me she was visiting her sister. I sat back in my chair and looked at the evidence spread across my desk. I had everything I needed to destroy them both. But I needed to be smart. I needed to be patient. The next morning, I called in sick to work. It was one of my last weeks before official retirement, and I had plenty of vacation days saved up. I told Claire I was feeling under the weather, maybe a cold coming on. She seemed concerned, brought me tea, told me to rest. Her acting was flawless. As soon as she left for her yoga class, I drove 45 minutes to the next town over. I found a private investigator online named Monica Reeves. Her website specialized in marital infidelity and fraud cases. Her office was small but professional, located above a coffee shop. Monica was in her 50s, sharp-eyed, no nonsense. I told her everything. The leaked folder, the emails, the affair with Brian Foster. She listened without interrupting, taking notes. "Mr. Quinn," she said when I finished, "this is one of the clearest cases of conspiracy I've seen. Your wife and this HR manager aren't just having an affair. They're actively planning to defraud you. That's criminal. What do I do?" I asked. She leaned forward. "You do nothing yet. You act completely normal. Meanwhile, I gather more evidence. Photos, videos, documentation of every meeting they have. We build an airtight case. Then, when the time is right, we move." She quoted me her rates. They weren't cheap, but compared to $2.8 million, they were nothing. Monica worked fast. Within 48 hours, she called me with her first report. "I've been following Brian Foster," she said. "He rented a cabin 2 hours north under a fake business name. LLC registered as Mountain View Holdings. Your wife visited yesterday. They were there for 4 hours. She sent me photos. Claire's car parked next to Brian's. The two of them unloading groceries, looking domestic, looking like a couple. Monica had also done a deep dive into Brian's background. "Here's something interesting," she said. "Brian's been divorced twice. Both times, his ex-wives got unusually small settlements. In one case, his ex-wife later claimed important financial documents went missing during the divorce process. She couldn't prove it, but she suspected Brian had manipulated HR records somehow. So he's done this before," I said. "It looks that way. I've also been monitoring their text messages." "How?" "Let's just say I have resources. Brian has been coaching Claire on how to build a case against you. He's telling her to document everything, to create evidence that you're controlling with money, that you keep her in the dark about finances." I almost laughed. Claire had access to every account we owned. She just never cared about managing money. But apparently, with Brian's coaching, she was about to claim I'd been financially abusive for 26 years. 3 days later, I met with a divorce lawyer named Kenneth Brennan. Kenneth's office was in the city, an hour's drive from home. His reviews online were exceptional. He specialized in high-asset divorces and fraud cases. I brought everything: the leaked HR folder, the recovered emails, Monica's surveillance photos, the works. Kenneth spread the documents across his conference table. He was quiet for a long time, reading carefully. Finally, he looked up. "Mr. Quinn, this is extraordinary. You have documented proof of adultery, corporate espionage, conspiracy to commit fraud, and premeditated asset manipulation. Most divorces have none of this. What does it mean for me?" Kenneth smiled, but it wasn't a warm smile. "It means we can protect your retirement package completely. It means your wife will be lucky to get anything. And it means Brian Foster is going to prison." He explained the strategy. We needed to move quickly, but carefully. First, we'd set up an irrevocable trust for my retirement money. The trust would be structured as a conversion of earned income, a legal technique that transformed my retirement package into protected assets. "But won't that look suspicious?" I asked. "Not if we do it before she files for divorce," Kenneth said. "Right now, you're simply managing your retirement fund responsibly. We'll make it look like standard financial planning." While Kenneth worked on the trust paperwork, I played the perfect husband at home. Claire and I had dinner together every night. We watched television. We talked about my retirement plans. She asked detailed questions about when the money would arrive, which accounts it would go into, how it would be structured. I answered carefully, mixing truth with strategic lies. "The company's still finalizing everything," I told her, "but they're saying it'll be split between immediate payment and long-term annuities. Tax purposes, apparently." I could see the frustration in her eyes. She wanted specifics, so she could plan her attack. Meanwhile, Monica continued surveillance. She discovered that Claire and Brian had been meeting regularly at the cabin for over a year. They'd furnished it together, spending thousands of dollars from accounts I didn't even know existed. Monica also found Claire's evidence collection. She'd been staging photos of locked file cabinets in our home, taking pictures of financial documents spread across my desk with captions like "never allowed to see these." She was building a false narrative of control and secrecy. One night, I set my phone to record during dinner. I casually mentioned Brian's name. "I saw Brian Foster in the hallway last week," I said. "He congratulated me on retiring." "Nice guy." Claire's reaction was microscopic. A tiny pause before she took her next bite. A slight tightness around her eyes. That night, I heard Claire in the bathroom with the water running. She thought the noise would cover her phone call. It didn't. My recording device, planted near the bathroom vent, caught everything. "He mentioned your name today," Claire said, her voice tight with worry. Just casually, but still. "Do you think he knows?" Brian's voice came through clearly. "Impossible. There's no way. I've been careful. You've been careful. Stay calm. We're too close now. When should I file?" "Right after the money hits his account. We've been over this. The timing has to be perfect. If you file too early, he might hide assets. Too late, and he'll have time to spend it." "I'm scared, Brian." "Don't be. I've done this before." "Well, not exactly this, but similar. Trust me. In 3 months, you'll be free, and we'll have enough money to start our life together properly." I listened to the recording 3 times. Each time, my anger grew colder, more focused. They'd been planning this for months, maybe longer. Every smile Claire gave me, every conversation about our future, all of it had been lies. The next day, Monica called with more news. "I found something interesting. Brian's been accessing employee files for years. Not just yours. I counted 47 unauthorized accesses in the past 3 years alone." 5 days before my retirement money was scheduled to transfer, Kenneth finished setting up the trust. It was a masterpiece of legal engineering. The trust made my brother Thomas the trustee. Thomas lived in another state, and Claire barely knew him. We'd never been particularly close, which made him perfect for this role. The trust was irrevocable, meaning once the money went in, it couldn't be easily taken out, even by court order. "The key," Kenneth explained, "is that we're converting your retirement package from marital property into protected trust assets. Since you earned this money through your individual labor over 26 years, and since we're setting up the trust before any divorce filing, we can argue it's separate property." Will that hold up in court? With the evidence of Claire's fraud and conspiracy? Absolutely. No judge will reward her for planning to steal from you. The day the money transferred, I watched my account on my phone. At 9:47 a.m., $2.8 million appeared. It was the largest amount I'd ever seen with my name on it. By 11:30 a.m., Kenneth had transferred all of it to the trust. By noon, the trust was locked, protected, and completely out of Claire's reach. That afternoon, Claire received an automatic notification about the large transaction. Our bank sent alerts for anything over $10,000. She came into my office, her phone in her hand. "Desmond, I just got a notification about a huge transfer. What's going on?" I looked up from my computer, keeping my expression calm. "Oh, that's the retirement money. It came through this morning." Her eyes lit up with barely concealed excitement. "That's wonderful. Where did it go?" "I moved it to a financial advisor. Tax planning purposes. The company recommended setting up proper investment structures before year-end." "A financial advisor? Who?" "Guy named Thomas Quinn Financial Trust. He specializes in retirement asset management." I watched her face carefully. She didn't recognize my brother's name, didn't realize Thomas Quinn was family. "I'd like to meet him," she said. "Maybe we should both be involved in these decisions." There it was. The attempt to get control, to get her hands into the money. "Of course," I said. "I'll set up a meeting. But honestly, it's pretty boring stuff. Tax shelters, investment vehicles, that kind of thing." She smiled, but I could see the tension in her jaw. She suspected something, but couldn't prove anything. That night, I heard her on the phone with Brian again. He moved the money, all of it, into some trust with an advisor I've never heard of. "What advisor?" "Thomas Quinn. Do you know that name?" There was a pause. "No, I'll look into it. But Claire, this might actually be fine. Trust can be broken in divorces. Don't panic yet. When do I file?" "Soon. Very soon. I'll let you know." Brian and Claire didn't wait long. 3 days later, while I was at the grocery store, a process server came to our house. Claire filed for divorce first, trying to control the narrative. She also filed an emergency motion to freeze all assets, including the trust. I read the papers in the grocery store parking lot. Claire claimed I'd been financially controlling and emotionally abusive throughout the marriage. She claimed I'd hidden money from her, made all decisions without her input, and had recently moved assets to avoid divorce settlement. It was everything Brian had coached her to say. Every word was a calculated lie. But Kenneth had been prepared for this. Within 2 hours of Claire's filing, he filed our response. The response included photographs of Claire and Brian together, recovered emails showing their conspiracy, evidence of Brian's unauthorized access to my HR files, and documentation of Claire's fake evidence creation. We also filed a counter-motion to deny her emergency asset freeze, arguing that she had no legal right to money she conspired to steal. The judge scheduled an emergency hearing for the following week. That same day, I did something else. I called Coastal Tech Industries' corporate ethics hotline. I reported Brian Foster for unauthorized access to confidential employee files. I provided dates, times, and evidence. Within 24 hours, Coastal Tech launched an internal investigation. The investigation moved faster than I expected. Coastal Tech's security team pulled access log for Brian's HR credentials. What they found shocked everyone. Over the past 3 years, Brian had accessed 47 employee files without authorization. He'd viewed retirement packages, salary information, performance reviews, everything. In 12 cases, he'd printed or forwarded documents. In 5 cases, those employees had gotten divorced within the following year. Security footage showed Brian photographing documents after hours in his office, using his personal phone. He'd been systematically stealing confidential information for years. Coastal Tech suspended Brian immediately. They called me in for a formal interview. I provided everything I had: the leaked folder, the emails, Monica's surveillance showing Brian with Claire. The company's lawyer went pale when I showed him the evidence. "Mr. Quinn," he said carefully, "this is a serious federal violation. HIPAA doesn't apply here since this isn't medical, but privacy laws certainly do. Brian could face criminal charges. We're also potentially liable for damages." "I'm not interested in suing the company," I said. "I just want justice." 3 days into the investigation, another woman came forward. Her name was Valerie Pierce. She'd worked at Coastal Tech until 2 years ago. She'd gotten divorced, and her settlement had been unusually small. She'd always suspected her ex-husband had inside information about her finances, but could never prove it. Valerie met with Coastal Tech's investigators and with Kenneth. She told a familiar story. During her divorce, Brian Foster had been friendly with her husband. They played golf together a few times. Her husband had somehow known details about her stock options and bonus structure that should have been confidential. Her lawyer at the time had questioned how her husband knew these things, but they'd never pursued it. "I just thought I was being paranoid," Valerie said. "But then I heard about your situation, and everything clicked." Kenneth was thrilled. This establishes a pattern. Brian's been doing this for years. He cultivates relationships with spouses, leaks information, possibly takes a cut of the divorce settlement. It's organized fraud. The emergency hearing for Claire's asset freeze happened the following Monday. Both sides presented arguments. Claire's lawyer argued that I'd hidden money by moving it to a trust without her knowledge. Kenneth responded by presenting the emails where Claire and Brian had planned to steal from me. He presented the photos. He presented evidence of Brian's systematic fraud. The judge was a woman in her 60s named Justice Harriet Morrison. She read through everything carefully. Finally, she looked at Claire's lawyer. "Counselor, your client conspired with an HR employee to access confidential information about her husband's retirement package. She then planned to use that illegally obtained information in divorce proceedings. Is that your position?" Claire's lawyer hesitated. "Your Honor, we dispute the characterization." Justice Morrison cut her off. "The evidence is quite clear. Motion to freeze assets is denied. Furthermore, I'm ordering an investigation into potential criminal conspiracy charges." Claire's face went white. The hearing lasted another hour, but the outcome was clear. We'd won the first round decisively. After court, Kenneth pulled me aside. "They're going to come back with a settlement offer. Probably within 48 hours. They know they're destroyed." He was right. That evening, Claire's lawyer called Kenneth. They wanted to settle, but Kenneth wasn't interested in their first offer. Meanwhile, I hired a forensic accountant. Her name was Dr. Patricia Vance, and she specialized in finding hidden money in divorces. I gave her access to all our financial records. Within 3 days, Patricia found something remarkable. "Mr. Quinn," she said, spreading printouts across her desk, "your wife has been moving money for months. Small amounts, never enough to trigger alerts, but it adds up. She's moved $43,000 from your joint savings into a secret account under her mother's name." She showed me the transaction trail. Claire had been taking $500 here, $800 there, disguising them as grocery shopping or household expenses. The money had been transferred to her mother, then back to a new account Claire controlled. "There's more," Patricia said. "I found credit card charges for furniture, appliances, household items, all purchased in the past 8 months. Total value around $15,000. The delivery address matches that cabin Brian Foster rented." Armed with Patricia's findings, Kenneth went back to Claire's lawyer with a counteroffer. "Your client has committed fraud, conspiracy, and theft. She's stolen $43,000 from marital accounts. She's purchased $15,000 in property using joint credit cards for her affair partner's cabin. She's created false evidence of abuse. She's conspired with a corporate employee to access confidential information." He paused. "Here's our offer. Claire receives 20% of marital assets, excluding the retirement trust. That includes the house equity, savings, and her own 401k. She pays half of Mr. Quinn's legal fees. She signs a comprehensive NDA, and she leaves the state within 6 months." Claire's lawyer called back the next day. "Your offer is insulting. We'll see you in court." "Fine," Kenneth said. "Then we'll pursue criminal charges against both Claire and Brian Foster. Federal conspiracy charges carry 5 to 10 years in prison. Is your client prepared for that?" The call ended. That same week, federal prosecutors opened an investigation into Brian Foster. They'd been reviewing the evidence Coastal Tech had provided, along with everything I'd submitted. The lead prosecutor was a woman named Assistant U.S. Attorney Rebecca Hayes. She called Kenneth directly. "Mr. Brennan, we're prepared to offer Mr. Foster immunity in exchange for his full cooperation and testimony against Claire Quinn." Kenneth put the call on speaker so I could hear. "What kind of testimony?" I asked. Mr. Foster has admitted to accessing confidential files and providing that information to Claire Quinn, Rebecca Hayes said. He claims he was manipulated by Mrs. Quinn, that she initiated the relationship specifically to gain access to your retirement information. He's willing to testify to that effect. I almost laughed. Brian was throwing Claire completely under the bus to save himself. Do you believe him? I asked. Frankly, no, Rebecca said. But his testimony, combined with the electronic evidence, builds a strong case. If we pursue charges against Mrs. Quinn, Mr. Foster's cooperation would be valuable. She paused. However, Mr. Quinn, I understand you're primarily interested in protecting your assets, not necessarily in seeing your wife imprisoned. Is that correct? Yes, I said. I want justice, but I also want this over. Then I'd suggest using the threat of prosecution as leverage in your divorce settlement. If Mrs. Quinn agrees to a reasonable settlement, we could potentially decline to pursue charges. Kenneth thanked her and ended the call. This is perfect, he said. Now we have maximum leverage. He called Claire's lawyer back. We have new information. Brian Foster has agreed to testify against Claire in exchange for immunity. The federal prosecutor is prepared to file conspiracy charges unless Claire settles immediately. Our previous offer stands: 20% of marital assets, excluding retirement trust, NDA, and relocation. You have 48 hours. This time, they called back in 36 hours. Claire would accept the settlement. The next 2 months were a blur of paperwork and asset division. Our house was appraised at $840,000. After paying off the mortgage, there was $520,000 in equity. Claire received 20% of that, along with 20% of our joint savings and her full 401k. The total came to about $180,000. I kept the house, my retirement trust, my 401k, and my dignity. Claire moved out on a Tuesday in October. I wasn't there. Kenneth had advised me to stay away, let the movers handle everything. When I came home that evening, half the furniture was gone. The house felt empty, but also lighter somehow. The divorce was finalized on November 3rd. I didn't attend the final hearing. Kenneth handled everything. That same week, I received an unexpected call from Coastal Tech Industries. It was the CEO, a man named Harold Westbrook. Mr. Quinn, he said, I want to apologize personally for what happened to you. Brian Foster's actions were inexcusable, and they happened on my watch. The company takes full responsibility. I appreciate that, I said. We'd like to offer you a settlement to avoid any potential lawsuit. We're prepared to offer $400,000 in compensation for the privacy violation and emotional distress you suffered. I nearly dropped the phone. That's very generous. It's the right thing to do, Harold said. We've also implemented new security protocols to prevent this from ever happening again. And Mr. Quinn? Brian Foster has been fired and is facing criminal charges. He'll likely serve 3 to 5 years in prison. I'm 60 now. I've been divorced for 8 months. The house feels different without Claire, but it's mine. Truly mine. I sold it last month for $860,000 and bought a smaller place by the lake about an hour north of the city. 3 bedrooms, a workshop for woodworking, and a view of the water that takes my breath away every morning. My total assets, after everything, came to just over $3.2 million. The original retirement package plus Coastal Tech settlement, minus legal fees and the divorce settlement. It's more money than I ever imagined having. More importantly, it's secure, protected, earned. I've started a small consulting business, helping other retirees protect their assets and navigate complex retirement planning. Word spread about my situation, and people started reaching out. I enjoy the work. It keeps me busy and gives me purpose. My daughter, who's 28 now, calls me every week. She was devastated when she learned about her mother's betrayal, but she's been supportive. We've actually grown closer through all of this. Last week, I saw Claire's social media for the first time in months. She's living with her sister in Arizona, working retail at a department store. Brian Foster is awaiting trial, his legal license suspended, his cabin repossessed by the bank. I don't feel satisfaction exactly, just a quiet sense that the universe balanced itself out. Some nights I sit on my deck and watch the sunset over the lake. I think about how close I came to losing everything, how one folder on my desk, one overheard conversation changed the entire trajectory of my life. If I'd confronted Claire that first day, if I'd acted emotionally instead of strategically, I would have lost millions. She would have prepared. Evidence would have disappeared. Brian would have covered his tracks. But I stayed calm. I gathered facts. I built a case. I played the long game. My advice to anyone facing betrayal is simple. Don't react, respond. Don't let anger drive your decisions. Don't confront until you have all the evidence and a solid plan. When you discover someone is trying to destroy you, the best revenge isn't shouting or drama. The best revenge is protecting yourself, securing your future, and walking away with your dignity intact. I want my retirement. I want my freedom. And sitting here on my deck, watching the sun paint the lake in shades of orange and gold, I realize I won something even more valuable. I want my peace. The person I am now, the life I'm building, it's authentic. It's mine. No lies, no betrayal, no one planning to take it away. Justice came not through revenge, but through patience, strategy, and trusting that the truth would eventually prevail. And it did. Thank you for watching, and please hit the subscribe button and leave us a comment.